On the seed inventory for 2022, I think there's a little over 300 varieties. Basically, this is our germination chamber and our seeding room. So you're using a vacuum seeder to place all the seeds into the flats. And then after they go into the germ chamber and they sprout, then they come out here and get placed on the benches. We got a pop-up wash station in the greenhouse because the pack house is still in construction. And then we also have more growing beds here in this greenhouse. But this entire greenhouse will be dedicated towards transplants. So all the transplants will get sown, grown out here, and then moved outside where then will be staged to be picked up by the tractors and brought into the field to be put into the ground. So everything that's sown in the ground during the early spring is the late winter, are all the things that can handle a light freeze or a frost. And then just now we're starting to get to a point where we would be able to transplant tomatoes and stuff like that if we had them a little bit bigger, where the greenhouses are able to withstand a freeze. But we have arugula and parsley, high curry turnips and scallions and onions, some mustard flowers, tatsoi, and then a whole array of spring flowers and lettuces and cabbages, broccoli, cauliflower, kohlrabi, fennel. And we also have hardwood cuttings that we do here, which mostly elderberries and currants. And so we're getting ready we have another round of currants that will be getting started, and most of the elderberries are just now starting to root. So what we have is we have a couple overwintered beds, a couple beds that are finishing up and getting harvested completely. So we have some carrots that were sown late fall and that grew over the winter and are now being harvested as baby carrots for the chefs at Epiphany Farms and Anju. We have some spinach and some chickweed that'll be getting harvested and cooked down. And also once they get like old and like leathery or like not prime, we'll feed them to our rabbits or to the chickens. So this bed is actually later today will get harvested, fed to the rabbits. We have 2 fresh beds of spinach. We have a red snapper spinach, which is like a red vein spinach, as well as a smooth leaf baby spinach, arugula, mustard, green wave, high curry turnips, and then radishes, more lettuce, some early scallions, and then some Swiss chard that's going to be getting cut out, fed to the rabbits, and then that'll be getting re-sown here in the next couple of days. Yeah, so chickens, peacocks, pigs, a sow about to give birth, having babies. A lot of times in the springtime, right when things are waking up, like right around now, the first site where we get a lot of product not only are the greenhouses, but also the timber and the woods. So we are able to do a lot of foraging this time of the year. In the next couple of weeks, that season will be hitting in very heavy. The types of plants that we're foraging for early in the season are a lot of wild onions and wild leeks. So ramps, there's 2 varieties of ramps, there's purple and there's white. Growing with the ramps are also some onions, some like little wild water onions, as well as sweet Sicily, and then other like early sprouts like stinging nettles. So stinging nettles, when they first sprout, are extremely nutritious, chock full of vitamins and minerals, and also silica. And it's really not only great for us to consume, but we can also make teas out of them to spray on the plants. Stinging nettle tea is a very, very healthy tonic that you can put on your plants in your garden. You can also harvest the first flush of greens in the forest and put them in your compost pile, and you'd be mining those minerals and then being able to compost them and put them in your gardens in the future. The whole property is laid out in different garden blocks, and so we actually start on the south side of the property. Over when you come in the driveway to the southeast, garden blocks A1 and A2, and then it's garden block B. We're currently standing in garden block C, which is fallow right now. This will be a garden this coming season. And then you have D, E1, E2, E3, E4. There's D1, D2, D3. And so all in all, there's about 18 acres of garden blocks that are laid out and cultivated and planted on a yearly basis at this point. There's also block F, which has all of our vineyard, all the wine grapes, the elderberries, the hazelnuts, and then section G, which is our greenhouse section. So we have beds in and around the greenhouse section, and so that's all garden block G. This year, new is the renovated pack house, the new pack shed, as well as our guest check-in and welcome center, which will double as a farm store. So all of the tours and visitors of the property that are coming to check out the regenerative agriculture will be able to come in here, check in, go to an information center, also be able to purchase our products and our different merchandise and different tools and equipment, and then also be right next to the farm office and the pack and wash shed. So real cool new kind of agricultural complex that we're adding this year. So, one of the problems we have with it is just the fact that we don't, like silverware doesn't. So that's one issue. But the one thing that well, it's just because they're composting all the refuse from the guest plates. And so occasionally when they're really busy, the silverware will fall into the compost buckets and then it gets through. But we can sift this, and then also when we spray on the garden, we can walk the gardens and pick up all the trash before we incorporate it into the soil.
So you guys even compost
every ounce of food waste since we've ever produced.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, don't tell too many people. No. It's a real big deal to take responsibility and ownership of your waste. And so even though this is kind of a headache because we might have silverware, at least we reclaim this and we don't put it in the landfill. And it goes into our garden site as a beneficial amendment to the soil. Yeah, so this is some of the finished products. So this is after a year of composting, the wood chips, all the food scraps, all the waste is now this really nice organic. And if you look in here, it's like you can see this white mycelium, and it's all the fungi and all that. You can see it right here. So this is all really, really good stuff, this mycelium, and it's breaking down the carbon. This is here, more bones. That's a short rib from Harmony Korean BBQ. So one of the things with these bones is that the bones from the animals that we raise and then cook and then turn into stock, and we get as much nutrients as we can out of them. But we actually can't get the bone. But when we put in this compost, these bones, they decompose and they break down, and that's bone meal. These are the minerals that help build that bone structure during that animal's lifetime that are being returned to the soil. And in a lot of cases, we're returning more nutrients to the soil than what we're taking out. So that means that it is regenerating, and it is a regenerative practice, and that the soil and the ecosystem that we're stewarding is improving. And that's what this stewardship is all about, leaving it a healthier place than we found it. So this is the same thing, but this is just super fresh. And this is the bedding from the winter bedding. So we use straw and mulch, and then the animal manure. In this case, it's rabbit, chicken, and pig. It's done a deep bedding compost pack that we learned from Joel Salatin at Polyface, and we go in and we scoop all that out and we bring it here to the compost pile. This will be turned throughout the year, and then next season, this fall, this will go and get incorporated into the gardens and also brought back to those field sites. So right now, what we're seeing is we're actually like in a vole den. So there's a couple vole houses.
You said voles?
Moles or voles. These are voles. The voles are the ones that look like they make tunnels on the surface and below the surface, and they don't create a bunch of big piles. Now, this is the reason why we don't look at like hawks or other birds of prey. They're not a bad thing. We're not worried about them eating our chickens per se, because they help us go after voles and moles and different other like ground rodents that would also hurt our root crops. And so we're kind of like partnering. And then the farm dogs, as well as the wild coyotes and foxes, they also are coming in here and they're hunting them. It's not like us versus them, it's more of like a partnership and a relationship between everyone and this like holistic system. And so, you don't really know. And so being able to just have patience and observe and not just jump to conclusions, right away. Sweet. Well, this is the new Welcome Center at Epiphany Farms, still in construction. Hopefully this will be open sometime in April or May. This will be the new guest check-in. So when guests are coming from out of town or they're coming from a school field trip or something, they'll stop here. There'll be a parking lot and a small greenhouse with plants and things like that for sale. Then also the farm office is gonna be right there. So this will be the guest check-in and farm store, and then that'll be the farm office, and then the pack house and distribution center. all of the product that we produce on the property will be harvested, and then it gets funneled to the pack house, the wash sheds. It gets cleaned, inspected, packaged, and then gets distributed from there to either any of the families that are purchasing our subscriptions or all of the restaurants. This is to load in all the product. So after it gets washed, it'll just come from there and then go right in here. This is the new farm offices in the corner. And then we're gonna have refrigeration coming off of the building, little break area, and then right next to all the garden and greenhouse sites. So it's kind of like a really ideal location. Plus there's a beautiful pond right there, so it's nice to have that.